Greetings, family. Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective. My name is Kyle, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for 20 years. Grand Rising Collective's here is to cultivate greatness in ourselves and our community.
And my name is Kayode, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for over 20 plus years. My contribution to Grand Rising Collective is to help cultivate that greatness in ourselves and the community through impactful discussions, seminars, and webinars with my co-host, Kyle Dixon.
Yeah, we as Black, what I see happening from your experience, Shelley, is we as Blacks, we've been operating because we've been indoctrinated and programmed.
Right, educated, right?
Right, the whole joy de group, right, post-traumatic slave syndrome, right,
which is present slave syndrome,
right. We've been programmed not to work together. So we're like, they say you put you try and do something with your fingers, it'll break or something. But if you ball your fingers in a fist, you make a more powerful impact than individual fingers. You heard that, something along those lines, right? Yes. It's the same thing, right? So again, going back to your point, Shelley, if we stop trying to operate as individuals in this system that's designed for us to fail, and in fact start coming together like all other groups do, as some say is perceived, but we come together as a group and pool our resources together, then we'll have a better outcome. So we're on the same page, making the same
we all are.
solution.
Yeah, it's a mindset.
Yeah,
it's a mindset shift. It's a cultural thing. It's like you said, we like you said, Kai, it's designed. It's designed this way. It's designed to be difficult for us to not trust each other. It's for the benefit of the people who are trying to control us. Mm-hmm. And again, we, like I said, if America catches the cold, we get the flu. So we're not the only ones being controlled, but we're the ones being controlled because it's easier that way. The way that we came into this country, on this landmass through the transatlantic slave trade. Now, of course, there were people that were already here, indigenous people, what we talked about earlier. There are already people here like us, that were indigenous to this land. But in regard to the way that a lot of our ancestors came through the Ma'afa, as they call it, the transatlantic slave trade, the Ma'afa, the Great Destruction, we have been indoctrinated, like you said, miseducated to trust the people and depend on the people who are controlling us for their benefit and wealth and upliftment. So it is a mindset shift. Also, it is incumbent upon us to realize that also there are factors and things involved financially, socially, politically, that make it a lot easier for our white counterparts, to pull their monies together. The construction companies, the companies like Kayode, you're an entrepreneur. We talk about this all the time, that having your own business is giving yourself some ownership, but the word I'm trying to, it's escaping me right now, but it's basically giving us the power and the position and the choice to have entities that we created, because again, nothing's new. We've been doing this. And the fact that when we look at our history, it's the fact that we have attempted and continue to resist against the oppression of our people in many different ways. But somehow, some way, there are people who look like us, there are people who don't look like us, there are organizations that they are bent upon us not succeeding, because when we succeed, they have to bow out. Like we know in general, for the general American population, no matter what ethnicity, we know that we can have a light bulb that lasts for 2 years. We know this. We know they have already created a light bulb that can last for 2 to 3 years. But of course, the companies that sell light bulbs every few months, they will not make profit. That's how it's set up. So, but they have the technology where a light bulb can last 3 years. They have technology where everybody can get a piece of bread and a glass of milk. I'm going like a throwback. People can get a piece of bread and a glass of milk a day. We have enough food. They burn wheat fields, right? They literally burn wheat fields to keep the price of wheat at a certain rate. Right. So these are the people we're dealing with. These are the structures that we're dealing with. So when they charging $300 for a steak, I'm like, hey, brother, Matter of fact, I'm at the age now, Shirley. Literally, I'm literally at the because I'm a grassroots. I've been a part of grassroots organizing. I know you have too, and Kayode has been as well. I'm at the point of my life where I'm like, okay, I paid $300 for steak. Let me speak to the manager. Hey, bro. Hey, sis. Look, look, I love your establishment. I want to come back, but hey, what's up with the $300 steak, man? What's up with this? I want to be able to support you. I'm trying to support you, but you're breaking me financially where I didn't have a good experience. The DJ's talking over the song. The drinks are a little watered down. And I'm not saying this to dismiss you. I'm saying this because we got to get better. I want to come back. What do you have to say about that? And again, I'm not even, you don't have
what is their responses?
Right. What is their response? Because the response is going to tell me everything. The response is going to say, okay, I hear you. We thinking about it. We will think about it. Okay, cool. Because I want to support you, but if you're going to keep doing this, I can't come back respectfully. Got love for you, peace and blessings, but I'm not coming back.
But you know, the thing about it, Kyle, is that at the end of the day, we have people that supports these establishments. True. So the price is the price, and people gonna pay the price, right? Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, who and what you choose to support and how you choose to support it. If they have more Black establishments that, you know, particularly here in Atlanta, that cater to my age demographic and my taste, I would definitely support those Black establishments. And when I say that, meaning, to your point, good food, nice music, you know, not the DJ talking over it, maybe a small little dance floor of some sort. And I know they have some here and there, but I'm also looking for a particular clientele too, right? Yes. I'm not trying to go into just any establishment just because it's a Black establishment, right? I'm looking for a certain ambiance, right? And that's a niche, right? I think right now, particularly, and this is just me, you know, making assumptions about Atlanta. I think a lot of the establishments really cater to the young professional, and this is a huge college town, so they're catering to, you know, college students. Into Kayode point, I think those college students, they just spend frivolously because they can. Yeah. I mean, when refund checks come, this city is like floating, right?
Wow, because I know college students typically broke.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not with their parents. They living their best life, so they're gonna go to the club, you know, because I just got $4,000 dropped in my bank account, and I'm gonna spend the money, right? And then you come in and talk about, I want to, you know, support you, but you have to do better, and they're looking around like we sold out. And here it's funny. I was in DC. And I was visiting with a friend of mine, and we went to this brunch spot. I can't even think of the name, but it doesn't matter. When I say the brunch was amazing, it was so good. It was so good. Now that bill was high. However, and it was a Black establishment. I'm not going to go back because I did not like the clientele that it attracted. It wouldn't be. But the music was great. Right, the DJ wasn't talking over it. I mean, he played all genre of music. At one point, I forgot where I was because I was so into the waitress. She was subpar, but she was young. And when I looked around, most of the females in there were young. The men, a little suspect in age because they were a little older, and the girls was a little younger. Catch my drift. At one point, the table in front of me, the girl got up and started dancing on the table. I don't go to establishments now where people are dancing on the table, but we just, you know what I mean? But if I was to go to that, and it was funny because the person I was with, she knew the owner, and she said he used to be a big club promoter. She's an older woman. She's 55. Okay. And she said she know the club owner and the promoter. She said, I can't believe he's still out here in this crowd. But he knows what's work. Now if she's 55 and she knows him because she was going to all of his clubs, he has to be about 55, 60. Yeah. And he's throwing parties like this, but he knows what's going to sell. And the bill was like $100 a piece. So it was like $200 for us. But the food was it was one plate. You get one plate and it's all you eat. There's no like you pick whatever you want. And it was like bottomless mimosas. And let's be honest, anytime I hear bottomless mimosas, we already know that champagne is cheap, cheap, cheap. And I don't do cheap champagne, but food was great. Ambiance was great. And this is my point that I'm making. Okay. These clubs and these establishments with these Black tax, they are catering to the audience that they know is faking it till they make it. Right. and they're going to pay it. What we're talking about is how it's annoying for us because we're trying to find sophisticated places for us to go. There's not necessarily white establishments that we're able to support, but it's few, far, and in between, unfortunately. And to Kayode's point earlier, these spaces got to stay open. So they're not thinking about people in our age range because they're like, look, I got to survive. So they can, tax on an extra $50 because they know the people that's gonna come in there. They spot is hot. They're gonna pay. And that's going to be that. And the only thing they have to do, and I've seen this many times here in Atlanta, they just beef up security because they attract the fake it till we make it. Just got paid, going out. My man, doing his side hustles and my girl doing her side hustles, we can afford this. So that's who they're catering to. So I think the real conversation goes back to we are not inventors. So where is my establishments that are not far, far away that I can go to? That's a Black establishment that's giving me my jazz music or giving me my 90s and my early 2000 music that's giving me good food where I can dance. Like, tell the people to put it in the chat. Where in Atlanta can I go?
All right. So,
right.
But before we do that, let's get to the core. You said
so-and-so's living room.
we're not inventing anymore. Why do you think we're not inventing? Maybe it has something to do bringing the conversation full circle back to whoever's in office, or for example, someone who's might be in office, Ms. Kamala Harris. How come we're not inventing it? Do you think the inventing spirit in our culture just died, or maybe it's still there, but it's not being encouraged because of the legislation that's being passed in this country that's supposed to be a capitalistic system?
I think it's all of that. I think there's a lack of interest. I mean,
like you guys to put that around. You like to wrap that?
Yeah, I think, you know what, and here's what I say, because Kyle, you're in education. I'm not as much in education. I mean, I work in education. I hear a lot of young people. I hear a lot of people talking about entrepreneurship more now than I did growing up. My daughter talks about entrepreneurship, right? But when you lift the hood up and you ask them about entrepreneurship, it's not about inventing anything. It's about how can I be an influencer?
Yeah.
How can I make quick cash? And I think that's one of the difference is that we are now of the culture, not the Black, and I'm not even talking about Black, I'm just talking about in general. We are now we have entered into a culture where we have AI. So why do I really need to invent anything? I just need to put something in the system and then let it sell. We're in the culture of social media. So all I need to do is take this bottle of water and say, oh, this bottle of water, made my skin great, buy it, and it's somebody else's, product. So I think we're getting into that culture where people want to make money, not necessarily quicker or faster, but easier. Nobody wants to work as hard. We're past that baby boomer generation where people got up every single day and they go to work, right? COVID kind of played a little part in that because people got to experience work remote, right? So I don't have that same work ethic where I have to get up, organize myself, organize my time, fight traffic, go in, do 8 to 5, and come in, right? So I think there's a lot of different. And we don't have the time. But I think there's a lot. I don't all think that it's politics. I think some of it is politics, right? Because the cost of living is much higher. I was telling someone, I remember I started driving at 14. Gas was 89 cents a gallon. I could remember pulling my, right? I could pull my change together and be like, my mom's like, you got gas in your car? Just give me $1. I'll get from point A to B. Like literally off of $1, I could get it. And then I remember it went up to like 125. Oh, wait, give me. And I used to be like to my friend, y'all better give me some money. 50 cents could go a long way if everybody put in the car, right? Now gas is like $3. So I think it makes it harder.
3 is 4.
Well, in my neck of the woods is 3. Sometimes 2 or 8. But I'm just saying, like the cost of living from which we came from to where we are now, I think it makes it even harder for entrepreneurs, right? And our baby boomers are exiting out. We started to see a shift in having younger parents, right? And so because we have younger parents, they haven't had a chance to leave anything to their kids. The baby boomers were supporting the Xers, right? And so with the baby boomers shifting now and the Xers are there, the Xers didn't really have time to build wealth to pass to their kids because their kids started having kids. So we're also starting to see a shift. Whereas one point you had the construct of, even in the Black culture, man went to work, wife stayed home. to some degree. And then you
Yes.
had a shift where both of them went to work, but wife still came in and took care of the kids. And it was roles. Now I also feel like the roles are all kind of wonky,
Yeah, they
like,
are. They are.
and yeah. And when I say roles, I'm not even talking about gender specific, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think just in family structure,
I
who's on
agree.
first, who's on second,
I agree.
whether it's man, man, woman, woman, man, woman, it's like we don't have defined roles. It's like I get in where I fit in at.
And
So
that
I
never
think
works.
all of that makes it hard if we bring it back to Black people to be entrepreneurs and inventors because there's so many different, variables that we have to, take into consideration. I don't have time. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, but it's hard because I'm having to take care of my child.
Hmm.
Right. And then for me to sit down and write a government grant, to get an small business loan, that takes time. Where am I going to get the time at if I got to pay $3 per gallon to get my child back and forth to school? Right. So I mean, I think that's one of the reasons, particularly why Black people in general are not as much as inventors. I think we are teaching our kids to be entrepreneurs and don't work for the man, but I think that we haven't gotten to a place where we're teaching them the how. How do you become an entrepreneur? I think we have more conversations with our kids now about, financial well-being and saving. Like I see that with many of these younger kids. Like when I'm on the HBCU campus, many of them talk about stock and, stock holding, investments and mutual funds. I hear that a lot more than what I did previous years when I worked at the HBCUs, right? So the
Right.
conversations have shifted in the right way, but I think we still have a challenge of teaching the how. We're teaching the why you need to do this, and we're exposing because and I'm going to make it so. And within our generation, as we always would hear, our parents didn't teach us about finances and credit, but I hear our more of these young people are doing so. But now the how. I'm just starting to even see with some of the HBCUs, they're now starting to have entrepreneurship classes as a major, right?
Hmm.
For a very long time, and I'm an HBCU advocate, for a very long time,
Indeed.
HBCUs was behind the mark. STEM was already being taught at the PWIs. HBCUs started getting on the STEM train, right? It was like, oh, white schools, if you will, again, I'm using
Hmm.
quotations,
Hmm.
they were already talking entrepreneurship track under their business program. The Black schools are just now starting to get that because for a very long time, I think in general, HBCUs was saying be the best, no matter what room you in, be the best, be excellent. But we were not talking about create your own. I cannot remember one business class where I had a professor say, get out there and create your own.
That's right.
It was teaching you how do you survive in this world.
Hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I concur with you on HBCU because again I went to one as well. So yeah, it was about be your best in whatever room you're in, and the entrepreneurship talk was very minimal, if none at all. And like you made some great points. You made some very, very great points. And family, I definitely want you all to definitely think about and let that marinate in regard to what Shelly is sharing with all of us. Because again, where is the inventing? Where is the how to? And that's something, Kayode, you do. That's the beauty of 4T's network. For those who don't know, definitely he teaches that Kayode promotes entrepreneurship. He also teaches the how to of entrepreneurship because it sounds beautiful. It sounds, as they say, it sounds sexy. It sounds glamorous. It sounds, very advantageous. But when it gets down to the soup to nuts, when the rubber meets the road, it's hard work
Yeah.
because you got to break past the norm of going to a 9 to 5. You have to
Yeah.
hold yourself accountable. There's nobody to point the blame at when you got your own business and you're the one. If you don't wake up that morning, that business don't go.
Yeah.
And that's
The
what a
how,
lot of people don't realize.
Kyle, to your point, and KD to your 2 4 T's, my daughter wants to be an entrepreneur. I have Googled, and it is in New York. I can't remember the organization, but I have Googled entrepreneurship school for kids. From you walk into this school, I'm about to probably give somebody a great idea, but oh well. You walk into a school and they take you from A to Z. So by the time you finish that school as a kid, you have a full-fledged business. The business license, the business plan, the marketing strategy. They don't have that. It's like you got to figure it out on your own. They have resources out there, but it's very much like veteran resources. They're everywhere. Who has the time to kind of like swim through it, right? And
Right.
as a mom taking care of my daughter, I don't always have the time to sit and say, okay, let's go through AZ. I need to figure out the time. But how amazing would it be if there was a school or a curriculum that taught our kids, and I'm not talking about what was that? They used to come into our classes.
Career day?
No, junior achievement.
Oh, yeah, junior achievement, yes.
Right. And I looked up junior achievement and I was like, oh, this is financial wealth. But they're not telling my kids how to get the finances, right? They just saying how to manage the finances. The part that's missing is how do you get the finances? Yes, you do the lemonade stand, but what's after that one day of the lemonade stand?
Right.
How do I, my daughter put me to work, right? This is a funny story and I'm gonna shut up. My daughter did Girl Scouts and she came to me and she said, Mom, I want to sell 200 cookies, right? Her dream school is Spelman. She's 11. Her dream school is Spelman. She said, I want to sell 200 cookies. So I said, well, what are we going to do? She was like, I'm going to make a video and you're going to send a video out to all of your friends so they can buy the cookies. Now, I want you to peep this, right? So I'm a Clark grad. So I was like, okay, so we made the video. She gave me feedback, fix this, fix that, whatever. And I was like, okay. And then I said, hey, why don't you make a thank you video? So every time somebody buys cookies, you say thank you. So she was like, okay, I can do that. So she made the thank you video. She was like, make sure you send it to this person, send it to that person, da 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 da. So we get to 300 cookies. So my competitive butt was like, oh, let's try to see if we get 500 cookies. So she was like, all right, cool. Let's do 500 cookies, right? So she makes another video. She's like, make sure you send it out. Send it to dad. Tell him, to send it. She even got me and her dad at a little riff. I was like, you're really not selling cookies and you're supposed to be a real estate agent, right? And so he was like, I thought you was in fundraising. So we ended up like competing. I'm gonna get to the moral story as you piece it together, right? So in the end, she sells 500. I think she ended up selling like 550 cookies or whatever. Wow. And then I got mad because her troop did not give out like the top cookie seller, and we ended up being the top cookie seller. And they were like, oh no, we just do it for the fun. Bump that. I said another word, but I was like, bump that. So she got pulled out. But anyway, so I ended up, because this cut cost. She said, and this was her decision to cut costs, she took the shipping away and she said, we will deliver the cookies to everybody other than people who live out of state, right? Wow. And then even for some of those, we're going to cut costs because it'd be cheaper. About a month later, I'm looking in my house and I have about close to 500 cookies sitting in my house. And I'm like, wait a minute, the cookie sale is over. So she goes, well, Mom, you need to package up the cookies. So one day I'm sitting there and I'm packaging up the cookies or whatever. And I'm on the phone with my friend who's a Spelmanite. And I said, she goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm packing up these Girl Scout cookies for Allie. And she said, oh, I like that. She thinks like an entrepreneur. She came up with the idea. She put you to work. You did the video, you did the marketing, and now you're production. And I sat there and she said, that's a Spelman girl. She hired a Clark girl to do her work and she walked around taking all the credit. She said, you raised her right. Now, that stunned a little bit, right? Because I was fussing because I was like, her dad not even helping. And she said, because he a Morehouse man. He know better. The Clark girl gonna do the work. And she said, I quote, at Spelman and Morehouse, we teach business. At Clark, she said, at Spelman and Morehouse, we teach business. At Clark, y'all teach workers.
That's cold-blooded, right?
It was cold-blooded, right? I became a worker in my own house behind these, and it wasn't even my thought, but she swayed me that way. So my point being is, she became a full entrepreneur because she never lifted a finger other than this is my idea, record me, and after that, she didn't even think about it no more. I was keeping up with all of the marketing, all of the sales. Every now and then she would come in and be like, how many cookies did I sell? Like a true CEO. Wow. She diversified. She done moved on to other stuff. Right? So my point
that is a great story.
Right. So, and she did it subconsciously. Right? She had me running around like, oh my goodness. I remember I went to the post office to do the shipping and the man was like, woo, you sell Girl Scout cookies? I said, no, my daughter does. And he's like, where is she? At school. Oh, she's smart. Work smarter, not harder. Go her. My point being is, where do we have that construct where we are teaching our young kids about entrepreneurship from beginning to end? Where they are not necessarily the worker bees, but they come up with the idea and they get other people to work for them, to work their idea, to make the money for them while they sleep. Allie made more money while she was sleeping because I was up working late for her.
Is that a point or is that a question?
No, but it's the point. It's when you talk about we lack inventors because we're not teaching our kids how to be inventors.
Right.
We're not teaching our kids the fundamental of business. We're not showing them from A to Z. And it's what I told one of my girlfriends when she was talking about her child wanted to do something. I can't remember what the career was. And I said, we don't, if your child won't know anything more than what you expose your child to.
Right.
If you don't expose your child to being a welder, your child will not know anything about welding. If you don't expose your child to being a dolphin trainer, your child will not become a dolphin trainer. What we do in our community is that we teach our kids doctor, lawyer, teacher, maybe engineer. But what about landscape architect? What about investor? What about becoming a financial advisor? What about, designing AI? We doing more coding now, but like, how are we really exposing our young people, our kids, our culture to all of these different facets? Where's those schools? We're still doing language, right? We still doing STEM. Bump all of that, and soon AI gonna take over. So how are we teaching our kids to create a business to integrate AI into their business where they can sleep and AI is doing the work?
Yeah.
Taking over. AI is taking over already.
Yeah. I mean, well, like you said, Shelly, we can't teach what we don't know. So, we have to constantly, as adults, relearn. We have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. There's the unlearn, relearn, learn. Those things. The 21st century learner, and Black folks, we've been constantly doing that because we've been fed up a bunch of lies anyway. So that's something we know innately for those of us who are learned and those who seek the truth and seek knowledge. Right? We've known that. So now it's about sharing that with the collective community as a whole, and recognizing that some of the opportunities that we once had are gone, but there are other new opportunities that are prevalent upon us. AI is here. It's not going anywhere. It's been here since the 1940s. This is just the newer version of it. And like you're saying, a lot of times with the AI with the children, just let them play with it. My generation, your generation, we had video games. Me and my brother were the VCR workers in the household. Why? Because we were the ones messing with it the most. So my father bought it. My mom was like, "How you do this? How you record that?" You hook this in, you hook that in. We hooking up video games to it, and so because we were constantly doing it because it was something we wanted to do. So with AI, all you have to do is not only expose the children, but really just let them play with it. Just let them play with it and see, like, what can you do with this? How you feel about this? Try this, try that, and they'll learn it. They'll learn it like that. They'll learn it faster than us because they're still in a stage of curiosity. And I think a lot of us as adults have gotten stale in reference and stagnant because we don't want to learn new things. We don't want to see different perspectives. And different perspectives doesn't mean that it's always the better perspective. It just means a different way of looking at things. You said something earlier, Shay, that was really profound. Access and resources, right? Just because you have access doesn't mean that gives you resources. And I thought that was very profound because you can.
Thank you. Make sure you write it across the screen.
Indeed. Put it out. AI. It's like, But yeah, like just because you have access to something doesn't mean that they're going to give it to you, right? Because we assume and say, well, you have access, you can know. Sometimes you have access, it's in front of you, but they're like, no, I don't touch.
Right.
Oh, that's for other people. That's for others, not you though. We'll let you see it though. So we have to be very mindful of that and constantly resist, constantly push forward and break those barriers. And again, it takes a person of a mindset to create. We are the natural creators. We are creative people. If we can create dances, we create sauces, if we can create podcasts, we're already inventing. But like you said, Shelly, the inventing in the way of the new dynamic of how things are presented, how things are absorbed, how things are developed, it has changed. So we have to change and alter, taking the previous history, pulling it into current day, and then going from there. Because what the youth don't realize, and what I'm teaching them, and what I realize even my own upbringing, is those older people are good to say, here's what we were doing up to this point, and here's the challenges, the triumphs that we had up to this point. Now, I may be telling you from that perspective of, oh, you can't do that. But we're like, hey, there's new opportunity. That once barrier that you had to go through, that you got beat in the head for potentially, is no longer there. That threat is no longer there. So Now it's upon me, my generation, to take it and take it up a notch, take the baton, as they say. But again, it takes awareness. It takes a collective people to say, I'm good at this. I'm not good at that. Talk to this person. Don't talk to this person. It takes a lot of that,
Let me interject real quick on
Yes.
that. All valid points.
Yeah.
But one thing we talked about in this conversation, which was a recurring theme, I think, Shelley, you brought this up. We're still reliving the same struggles that we experienced back in the 20s, right? So
Yeah.
the thing about it that we have to be cognizant of and aware of is that there's still a real, I don't want to use that term, there's still a real enemy out there.
No, that's real. No, say it. It is. There are people that are looking for us to not be here and to throw us off.
Yeah. And to that point, what makes today's struggle unique but the same as the past is it's not cognitive dissonance, plausible deniability. And what I mean by that is there's a statement that says, if you don't know who your enemy is, how can you fight them?
Yeah.
Right. So we already know what it is. It's morphed into, and it's real simple, and thank God for technology. It's a system. Okay. So like our past generation said, this is how far we got. You got to take it away. We have to upgrade as a culture how we operate, because let's say, for example, I want to bring it out here, and I'm trying to get to a point with this. Let's say, for example, well, let me ask this question. Do we have another Black Wall Street? And if we do, where is it?
I would probably say probably Atlanta at this moment.
Sure.
I'm not confident.
Just think about
let me Google.
Yeah, look it up. Black Wall Street. Because
but I will say this real quick. The black hair industry is $2.9 million as of in 2020.
Who is there a Black owner in the black hair business?
I'll look that up for next show. Kyle, make a note for me, please.
Yes, I will. I will say this though. Bronner Brothers. You got Bronner Brothers.
No, Bronner Brothers didn't sell out.
Did they?
I don't know. I'm asking. I know Shea Moisture, they sold out.
Kara's Daughters.
Sold out. Now you about to make me hold on. Okay.
You got the Bronner Brothers. What about Luster? No, that's under the Dudley.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson and Johnson.
All sold out.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So I'm getting to a point of what I'm trying to say here, right? In regards to when we look in the 1920s or 1960s, whatever the case would be, if I'm not mistaken, Shelley, Kyle, you correct me. Black ownership was what, 0.3% or something like that? It was only 2.03% with Black owned businesses, right?
Yeah.
Look at that number today. It's about the same. It hasn't grown. And what's so funny or ironic about the whole thing is we have more Black millionaires today than we had back in the 20s. Right? What's that name? Remember, I keep forgetting his name, Kyle. We talked about this when we were in CUNY in the office, that billionaire, Black guy that's a billionaire. Oh, Jesus Christ. You know what I'm talking about. I forgot his name. He's a billionaire anyway. I forgot it. But
are you talking about Robert Smith?
Robert Smith.
Yeah,
right?
Robert Smith.
The billionaire. Nobody knew about him. He was making billions years prior to that. But when we look at that number, how many Black businesses, ownerships that we have, right, that are successful, is still in that 0.012 or percentage. So we have to ask ourselves, these are questions that we have to ask. So that's why I asked if there's another Black Wall Street, and if so, where is it? And we say it's Atlanta. And I'm hearing stories in Atlanta. Atlanta's not the Atlanta. We thought we had that interview with homeboy this summer about Atlanta. Remember what's his name? He's digital content, Kyle, the digital content brother, the library.
No, are you talking about William Gibbons?
William Gibbons.
Yeah.
Didn't we talk about Atlanta? And he was talking about
Detroit. He's from Detroit. He was saying about with Detroit. Yeah.
Right. And what was he talking about? And Shelley, we're gonna look at the video. We're gonna talk about that Atlanta. But he was talking about the difference between Atlanta and Detroit. One of the things we have to do, again, I might get cut off and my audio might go out, as a culture is we have to level up, like I said, improve to where we're building YouTube platforms. But instead of calling it YouTube, call it like Fubu, for us by us tube or something like that.
What happened to Fubu?
Sold out. What's his
Yeah.
name? Is doing Shark Tank now.
Yeah, Damon John. Yeah, he sold the company. He sold his share. I know. At least he sold a share in the company for sure. And they still produce goods overseas. People still buy it.
Overseas?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Why,
wow.
you know what's so funny, Cal?
Mm-hmm.
Why overseas and they not selling it here? I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm telling you, man.
That ties into what we were talking about earlier, the value of our own things, how we value ourselves. See, that me and you and I have talked about this. Dapper Dan talked about this in his book. Why is it that our fashion is fast fashion, like fast food? But then we talk about Louis Vuitton, those are heritage brands.
How come 9/11 we'll never forget? Oh, slavery? Get over it. Oh,
Exactly.
my
These are the
video and audio might go out.
psychological games that have been played upon us, and we perpetuate them through our actions and through our lives. We perpetuate how we see ourselves and how we see people who create things for us, by us. You know what I'm saying? So again, well, now we know with capitalism as well that certain businesses are meant to be sold too. Like we have to.
That's so interesting that you just made, Kyle.
Yeah.
I never thought about it. We don't have a classic Black fashion line. That's classic.
Yeah.
Like we still consider classic Burberry, Ralph Lauren,
Mm-hmm.
Louis.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ralph Lauren from the Bronx. He started his stuff in the 70s. So then but his was interesting. His was interesting. Not to deviate, because Kayode, you got to make your point. His was interesting.
You're good.
The heritage brands that are coming up now are the ones that came up in our generation when we were teenagers. Walkaware, Fubu,
Yeah.
Carl Kanai.
Nah.
Yeah. Those are now the heritage brands now. I was thinking like heritage brand. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I was like, oh, snap. They're over 30 years old.
That's wow.
So how we look at Polo Ralph Lauren coming up in the forgive me, you all, if it's not the 70s. The 70s, he's from the Bronx. He's from, like Bronx, New York. So now we're getting into brands that are lasting longer, and will continue to last, based off of marketing, based off of status in our communities.
Yeah. Like, do you think Brandon Blackwood, I think that's his name, will become a classic brand?
Brandon Blackwood. I'm not.
He's a young. Let me make sure I'm saying his name right, because yeah, Brandon Blackwood. Wait. Let me make sure. Yeah. Okay. So he has I can't remember the history of his story. I want to say Oprah wore his bag. It was either Oprah or Beyonce. Somebody in the comments will correct me. But he's a young Black designer. And he makes purses. They're good quality purses, but it's like the way that I understand it is like high end purses for the masses. So there's very good quality purses. I have to say I have one. And they're like $200-$300. But it's affordable. It's an affordable brand as opposed to, a Louis that's gonna cost you $2,000. But it's still great hardware, great quality. And he came up really quickly. At least, for me, I know that some people have said he was around before I even discovered him, maybe like 2 years, kind of like an undercover, if you will, not undercover, underground designer. Yeah. But if you look at his purses, they're very clean cut. They remind me of not necessarily in terms of like style or look of a Louis or Gucci, but it's in that class, the way that it looks. Like if you look at the Gucci, like I have the Diana, it's similar in size and color. And so it's a very useful it's useful products. Let me say that. I shouldn't call it products, but somebody else will correct me. But I'm wondering if he will be a classic Black designer, because his purses are not over the top. They don't have, how Michael Kors and all of them have those, their symbols all over the place. It's very, and he has like a B. Let me see.
What's his name again?
Y'all looking at
Yeah,
Brandon Blackwood.
yeah, I just looked it
Blackwood.
up.
Yeah, it's
It
simple.
is clean.
It's just like a beat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The term I use, me and my friends use is clean. It's very clean. It's
it's
like,
very clean.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah, very
yep,
fashionable, stylish, not over the top, but very,
yep.
yeah.
And it's hard to like. He only makes a certain amount, and then that's it.
See,
It's almost kind of like the Moet brand, right? They only going to make a certain brew, a certain amount of brew, and then once it's gone, it's gone. And
exclusivity.
and very similar to his purses, which I absolutely adore.
Okay.
But when you brought it up, he's the first designer that came to mind that I was like, I wonder if if it's going to hold value, because people now look at those brands, those older brands, as investment pieces that you
Yes.
can always resell. That's now what they call it, investments, the investments that I wear. And I'm wondering, in the same vein, if I take his purse to a thrift store, if you will, along with my Gucci, will I get the same value that is worth that I pay for or close to it?
No.
And
That's
why
what
not? So
that's
that's one. That's one question. And then the second question is: in 5 years, will his purse be looked at if I wear it as a classic brand, like as opposed to if I walk around with the Gucci?
Depends on the consumer or the market.
Yep.
Isn't
Yep.
that terrible? And I
Yeah.
just thought about this when Kyle brought it up. Like
Yeah. It's gonna have
we don't have any classic brands. When we get rich, the rich billionaires that I know, and I don't know when I say that I know, let's be clear. I do not know any
She said,
billionaires.
I
I'm
know.
trying to find me one.
Right.
But the ones that I am aware of who are black, right? They tend to wear outside of like Michelle Obama when they wore Old Navy. Right? She wore
Mhm.
Old Navy. How many black billionaires, like I've never seen, and not to say she hasn't, I've never seen Oprah wear Old Navy. Again, not to say I haven't, not to say she hasn't, but most of them wear those high-end brands. Some of them I can't even pronounce. I will one day when I meet my millionaire husband. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah.
But
You mean
It's
Birkin?
I want to,
Birkin bag, Birkin.
when I get my Birkin bag, it's
TelFar,
going
TelFar,
TelFar. Do I
TelFar.
have I so well, you know what? That's another black
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. Your
that
mom
okay, so
knew.
let me I think it was Brandon Blackwood, Beyonce wore, and
Uh-huh.
Telfar, am I saying it right?
I hope you were saying it right.
Teflar, it was Oprah.
Yeah.
Yep. And again, he's a young black designer
Hmm.
as well. And to your point, I'm wondering how long he's gonna last.
And that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
Heidi said, it's because these are heritage houses, brands. They have a what 50, 70, 100 something year head start.
Yeah.
So it's going to be about longevity. And Dapper
Yeah.
Dan, that's why I love Dapper Dan here in Harlem. Shout out to Dapper Dan. I would love to have him on our platform. He talks about that in his book, and that's why he was saying when he was working with Gucci, he said they had to come to me, they had to come to Harlem to ask me because they asked me, but like, no, you got to come to Harlem first because I don't want it to be a thing of like I need you coming to me. So
Hmm.
because I know what style is because I'm here where style is created,
Right.
Harlem, USA. You know what I'm saying? So I a lot of people gave him flack for that because like, oh, you should have your own brand. He was like, do you know how much money it takes to do that?
Hmm.
He said, I've done that. I've started from zero, start from scratch. And then what happened is what happened. I got into the
Let me,
legalities of things.
all right, let me interject real quick, Al.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be. It frustrates me to have to talk about this,
Mhm.
and it is frustrating. It's sad, but these are hard conversations that have to be had, and it's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
You don't like it, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. When we talk about Dapper Dan, right, just look at Kanye West and his Adidas deal,
Hmm.
right? Here he is. He was trying to remember he had that famous interview with Flex. You don't know, Sway.
Right.
You don't know.
Yeah. Oh, Sway, the more Sway. Yeah, not Flex. Yeah, Sway. Yeah.
And you don't know
You
the
don't have the
times I
answers,
got to
Sway.
deal with this fashion industry. Right? So he was painting it out already. Now, again, I'm
Mhm.
just speaking on the top. I'm not talking about Kanye as an individual. I'm just talking about the experience and all the business part of it. Here's the thing that we don't realize, right? Because of our black brands and all this other stuff, living in this so-called utopia world. Look at what happened with Kanye. He made that brand billions of dollars. He gets on a podcast and he starts talking about controversial things, and they yank that contract from him. Now we see they lost so much money that they had to apologize, and come back, right, to some degree of whatever the case would be, because the overflow of stock, whatever the case would be. But the point I'm trying to make in regards to that is there's a level to this that we have to wear. Now, these black designers that you're talking about in regards to purses, I just noticed intuitively. Let them make enough money, or let their company be in the black or have a certain status of revenue that they generate. Let them first get there, right, where they're showing a huge impact on society and affecting these other designers, bottom line economics, and combine that with something that he may say that's pro-ethnic. Because one of the things we're not thinking about is, where did they get this money from to start their product line?
Right.
That's what I'm asking. How did they get to that point? Who was their resource? Because when we look at all of us as a culture, when we make a certain amount of money, there's always a funder. And that funder is never us. And there's this famous saying that says, like, if our parents say, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out.
Yeah, the old school saying. Yeah.
Right. So the fund is the same thing too. I gave you this start. You crossed me. I'll take this from you. It's the same as says God opens doors that no man can shut. So I have yet to see one of us in a position of power, money, or influence where God opened that door for us to the masses, to the point that no man can shut.
Well, I think it goes back to, how do we invest in ourselves and getting to see money? And here, my thought is, and my thought is, the millionaire blacks that we have, and I'm gonna throw out a huge assumption.
Go.
How much of that money do they pour into black businesses or helping to start up black businesses? What stands out is every time, and I can't remember Katrina happened. How many of those black millionaires gave to support New Orleans?
They can't. $40 million.
Like, there was another cause that happened, and I think it was Jay-Z and P. Diddy, and they came together, and I think they donated like $2 million. I can't remember what it was, but it was another like charity. And I'm like, Jay-Z is worth $1 billion, and at the time, before all of the stuff, I know that Puff Daddy was worth, a pretty good amount of money.
Yeah.
Right? So going all the way back to the beginning, I guess you would say, of the conversation is to your point about like Kanye. Kanye got backing from the others.
Yep.
Because I know they're not white, but they were the others, right? Yeah. To do his line. So he had to go to others to support him, as opposed to, in my mind, why, and I'm not saying that he didn't, he might have, but just for the simple fact that he had to go to others to help him with his line, as opposed to saying, hey, Jay, hey, Pete, hey, Charles Barkley, give me some money and let's invest in a black line. Right? And why?
They because who funds them won't allow them. And then,
so basically what you're telling me is that they still in slavery.
Yes, $40 million slave.
Somebody said that about what's that, Cat Williams?
Probably.
Somebody was talking about no, it wasn't Cat Williams. Somebody was talking about Kevin Hart. And there was some controversy came out, and I can't remember who it was. But anyway, they said Kevin Hart can't speak on it because he's owned by the industry.
Yes.
That's why he never says much of nothing.
He's a plant. Yes.
Yeah.
We noticed think about Bill Cosby and Michael Jordan, that whole thing where they were trying to buy NBC.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely know. Yeah, we can look that up.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, it became no longer. Yeah,
media is the most influential medium out here. You own media, you own society. You can control how people think, what they buy, how they
call TV programming for nothing.
That's exactly why. Boob tube. They call it the boob tube, right?
Oh, I thought you was like tuba. I was like, oh God,
Tubi. I mean, we own a platform right now, YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So you know, again, and that's what I stated earlier before, family, we were talking before. I said, you know, it's very important for us to have certain platforms in visual because we have to have spaces where we tell our stories. We have to have spaces where we speak candidly about these things, like as Kayode mentioned, that are very tough topics.